They had no guns, no traps made of steel, no poison, no cavalry, no siege weapons. They had sticks, and somehow they killed the largest land animal to ever walk the earth. But here's what nobody tells you: the mammoth wasn't the most dangerous thing out there. The humans were. Picture this: it's 30,000 years ago. The sky over Eurasia is the color of a bruise, gray, heavy, permanent. The temperature hovers just above lethal. There are no cities, no roads, no language written down anywhere. Just wind, ice, and hunger. A group of roughly 12 people crouch behind a ridge of frozen earth. They haven't eaten in 4 days. Two of the children are sick. One elder may not survive the next snowfall. And below them, 300 meters away, something is moving. Something enormous. A woolly mammoth. 6 tons of muscle, ivory, and ancient instinct. It's taller than a modern African elephant. Its tusks alone weigh more than a grown man. Its fur is thick enough to trap body heat at minus 40 degrees Celsius. These 12 people, with their sharpened stone and wooden spears, are about to attempt to kill it. And this is the part that should stop you cold. They're not desperate. They've done this before. Part 1. For decades, the popular image of early human hunters was flattering to our egos but quietly dishonest. We imagine primitive warriors, brave but blunt. A mob of screaming figures chasing a terrified mammoth over a cliff. Chaos, luck, brute force. But archaeologists started finding something they couldn't explain away. Kill sites, dozens of them, spread across Europe, Siberia, and North America. And at these sites, the bones weren't random. They were organized, particular bones stacked together, specific cut marks on specific joints, evidence of systematic butchering. Not frenzied scavenging, but methodical, practiced, almost surgical dismantling of an animal the size of a small house. This wasn't luck. This was craft. But that's not the part that changes everything. The part that changes everything is what they found before the kill sites. Part 2. The plan. Ancient hunters understood something modern humans have almost entirely forgotten. That to kill something much larger than yourself, you don't fight it. You choreograph it. Mammoth behavior followed patterns. They moved through river valleys in predictable seasonal corridors. They needed to drink. They needed to sleep. They had blind spots. They had fears. And early humans knew this. How do we know they knew this? Because of where the kill sites are located. Almost every confirmed mammoth kill site in the archaeological record sits at a natural geographic bottleneck. A river crossing, a valley narrowing, a cliff edge, a bog. These people weren't chasing mammoths randomly across open tundra. They were waiting for them, at the exact spot they knew the mammoth would have to pass. Think about what that requires. Not just bravery, patience, not just instinct, memory, not just hunger, strategy. These were people who could hold a plan in their minds across days, maybe weeks, who could coordinate without written language, who could suppress the fear response long enough to remain still and silent while a 6-ton animal walked toward them. And then they waited for the moment. But here's where it gets darker. Part 3. The kill. When they moved, they didn't charge. Some researchers now believe early human mammoth hunters used a technique so psychologically calculated it almost defies belief at this temporal distance. They split. A group of hunters, typically the fastest, would circle wide around the mammoth, moving downwind, staying invisible. Another group would stay behind the animal, close enough to create noise, panic, confusion. The mammoth, following every instinct evolution gave it, would begin moving away from the threat it could hear, directly toward the group it couldn't see. The ambush group, waiting in silence, would have one chance. The spear, a wooden shaft sometimes tipped with hand-knapped flint or obsidian, needed to penetrate the thick hide near the shoulder or rib cage, reaching the lungs or heart. One wound rarely killed a mammoth outright, so they didn't try for a clean kill. They tried for blood loss. The hunters would track the wounded animal, sometimes for hours, sometimes for an entire day, following the crimson trail through the snow until the mammoth, weakened and alone, finally stopped. Then they moved in. And here's the psychological weight of that moment that history never quite acknowledges. That mammoth, at the end, it was exhausted, disoriented, breathing heavily, ribs heaving, blood in the snow. And these 12 people stood around it, not triumphant, focused, because the most dangerous moment wasn't the ambush, it was the finish. A cornered, dying mammoth could still kill every person there, and they knew that. They did it anyway. The twist. What archaeology keeps quietly finding. Here's the part almost nobody talks about. In several excavation sites, most notably in Moravia in the Czech Republic, archaeologists discovered something that fundamentally shifted the narrative. Mammoth bone structures. Hundreds of bones, arranged deliberately, not scattered, not waste, built. Mammoth bones used as foundations for shelters. Mammoth skulls arranged in ritual configurations. Ivory carved into figurines. Pigment-stained bones suggesting ceremony. These weren't just hunters, they were builders, artists, mourners. Some researchers believe that certain mammoth kill sites show evidence of ritual behavior, that after a successful hunt, early humans didn't just eat the mammoth, they marked the event. They treated the carcass with something that, if we're being honest, looks uncomfortably close to reverence, like they understood something about what they'd just done. The taking of a life that large leaves a mark, even 30,000 years ago, maybe especially 30,000 years ago. Existential reframe. And here's where this stops being about mammoths. What we've just described, the patience, the coordination, the planning, the psychological regulation required to execute an ambush over multiple days, that's not the behavior of animals driven purely by instinct. That's us. That's recognizably, uncomfortably, exactly us. The same cognitive architecture that lets you plan a project at work, suppress your anxiety before a difficult conversation, coordinate with people you trust, and carry grief after you've done something that cannot be undone. That architecture was already fully online 30,000 years ago, in the freezing dark, holding a spear, waiting. We like to imagine that ancient humans were simpler than us, less burdened, less aware. But what if that's just something we tell ourselves to feel more evolved? What if the person crouching on that ridge, watching the mammoth's slow breath cloud in the frozen air, was experiencing something almost identical to what you feel before the most difficult moments of your own life? The same tightening in the chest, the same internal argument between fear and necessity, the same quiet decision, I have to do this, arriving like a stone, dropping into still water. What separated them from us isn't intelligence. It might just be time. The woolly mammoth went extinct roughly 4,000 years ago. The last isolated population, stranded on Wrangel Island in the Arctic Ocean, died out while the Egyptians were already building pyramids. We didn't wipe them out with technology. We outthought them, slowly, methodically, with nothing but memory, coordination, and the terrifying human ability to delay gratification long enough to let something walk into a trap. And sitting with that feels different when you realize we haven't changed. The same minds that collapsed a species across 2 continents now build satellites, write symphonies, wage wars, and scroll through phones at 2 a.m. trying to remember what it felt like to be present in something real. The ambush instinct never left us. We just found other things to hunt. Maybe the most honest thing archaeology ever gave us wasn't an answer about the past. Maybe it was a mirror, and the mammoth in the valley wasn't the story. We were.